Welcome to the Connectable podcast.
The Connectable podcast starts in 3, 2, 1.
All right, here we go. I'm excited for today's guest because I have to say, I don't know if we've had anybody that's more connection minded than this guy. We have a lot of people that love connecting with people, but when it comes to actually connecting with people and bringing people together to connect, like, I don't know if there's a dude that fits this mold better. So today's guest is the creator and host of the Mix and Mingle, Sacramento's largest mixer, Trevor Fong. What's going on, man?
Not much. Just got out of a home buyer class and excited to do this with you.
Hey, man, we always appreciate when people take some time, especially at this time of night, and especially when they have a full, day's work and they're still willing to hang out and have a conversation with us. We definitely appreciate it, man. So I'm excited to talk to you. Usually we kick off the podcast by explaining how we're connected with our guests. And we've done this for almost exactly a year now. And usually, we have some kind of connection with our guests. Either it's like a friend of mine or my co-host who's not here tonight, Deb. You have a personal connection with them, or sometimes it's people we follow on social media. And you and I literally just met about 5 minutes ago on this Zoom call. And so, obviously I've joked on this podcast before because people have brought your name up before. I think Charles Velasco was on our show before, and just recently Vera Maranta, and they brought your name up. And I feel like, just based on what I know of social media, you seem like the mayor of Sacramento sometimes, man. It just seems like I'll see you pop up randomly in pictures like, oh, there's that dude Trevor again. So it's cool to finally have you on and actually have a conversation with you rather than just stalk you on social media, man. So but anyways, that's how we're connected. So to jump into it, let's just start here. Like, tell me a little bit about yourself. Did you grow up in Sacramento, and then how did you get started with the Mix and Mingle?
Yeah. So, guys, my name again is Trevor Fong. I'm a, insurance agent out here in Sacramento, California. Grew up, born and raised my whole life here. I was very shy growing up. I was very quiet. Worked retail till I was about 28, 29, and then jumped into the bar industry and actually owned a sports bar right at like 28, 29. And I kind of did that, I guess, off networking too. I met a guy who worked with me in retail, and he always talked about owning a bar. When he went and bought his first, I kind of just listened and learned from him, just because I eventually knew I wanted to be a business owner, and eventually just took the leap of faith and kept opening, new opportunities came to me, and I opened up my own business. But because I was so, whether you want to call it sheltered or shy growing up, I didn't go out much. I never went out in my 20s. I played a lot of Call of Duty, a lot of PlayStation, a lot of video games. And all my friends were super successful. All my friends were very smart in our class, high school and college. A lot of them became lawyers and got these amazing jobs. And, here I was, this 25, going on 26, 27, 28 guy in retail, making about, I think back then minimum wage was $9. Mm-hmm. And I just I felt like I was behind, but, I realized in my life, things have always come later. I got my driver's license very late in life. All my friends had theirs first. So as I've done these opportunities, I've realized that, just putting yourself out there and getting out of your comfort zone, makes you a better person. But I'm always the last in the pool. I'm always last to jump in. But born and raised here, went to Christian Brothers, went to Dominican University for college, and then moved back to Sac, lived at home for a few years during the recession, and then, just ended up staying here.
Wow. Okay. Now I'm actually glad you said what you did about you being more shy and reserved, because that's actually a question that I had for you a little bit later. But since we're here, let's talk about it. Obviously, with your mixer, the idea is to bring people together, help them network, and provide a space for them to get connected, which is what we're all about. Our tagline is creating connections through relatable conversations, which is exactly what happens at these mixer events. I imagine. I've never been to one, but I've seen it around. Living in Sacramento, like, you hear about it for sure.
Yeah.
And so obviously that's the point of these mixers. But for someone who was maybe has a similar type personality as you, and they're like, man, I would love to go to something like that and get connected, but I'm super shy and reserved. How, for you personally, how did you finally get beyond that to now, you're kind of like the king of the mixer?
When I opened my office, I signed a 5-year lease.
Okay.
So for me, having that lease, and at the time I knew I was going to have my daughter at my 6-month mark. So a combination of having that lease, knowing that I had, my future child on the way, I had their mom to worry about, I had my employees to worry about. I knew that when I stopped thinking about, like, when I thought about myself, I just thought of myself as this shy guy. But when I thought about how all these people are counting on me to, get out there and drive in business, I realized that my actions influence a lot of people indirectly and indirectly. Like, it just, like, whatever I do affects, my family, my friends, my employees. So I never got over being shy. Like, even today, I'm still super shy. Like, I don't want to go first. Like, I have a light switch where, like, right now I'm talking to you, but earlier I'm sitting there alone in the corner texting you through Instagram saying, hey, I'm ready. Like, I definitely have to, like, pump myself up. And the first time I went to a mixer, I'll never forget, it was January 2016. It was a Metro Edge under, like the under 40 mixer. And I had heard about it because I went on Facebook and just searched mixers. And I think it was either Eventbrite or, whatever it was at the time I signed up. I remember I went there, I was so nervous. I brought one of my employees with me. I got to the door. I looked in. I'd never been to a mixer before. I saw a check-in table, a bunch of people like in suits, everyone's like looked super professional. We left and walked around the corner to a bar, and we did shots of Fireball and had a Corona. And back then I couldn't drink that much. So I was a little buzzed. And then I walked in the mixer and I was like, I'm not leaving until I pass out 20 business cards. So I passed out 20 business cards, left, and I was like, man, that wasn't so bad. I didn't die. So that kind of got me over the act of showing up. But although, like, even today I'm still shy. Like, even at my last like few mixers, I go hide in the kitchen sometimes. I go eat some burgers in the back and take a little break. Like, I'm still shy. Like, it's just crazy. Like, I am very shy. I'm very introverted. But the reason I said yes to even this podcast is, like, doing this stuff helps me get comfortable talking. This is practice to me, and sharing my story, even if it helps one person or gives one person confidence. I find that's like my definition of success is helping just anybody find motivation. And there's times where, like, I'll post a bunch of stuff or do a bunch of stuff, and I kind of like wonder, like, is anyone even listening or watching? And then I'll get like an occasional message like, hey, I either, like you said, have heard of you or seen you. And it kind of reminds myself, like, it's all worth it. But that to me is like what gets me over the shyness or motivates me. I don't know if that explains it that well, but it's definitely like, it's just knowing that once you influence someone or help someone and it's genuine, you change their lives, like, that is very rewarding. It is a lot.
Oh, absolutely. That makes a ton of sense. I mean, I think that's a really interesting perspective, that it was not so much a selfish thing or an internal thing, but it really was like a selfless thing. You said, hey, if I want to help the people around me, I'm going to have to step out of my comfort zone so that they can receive the best version of me, and that I can give them the best help I can possibly get. So I think that's awesome, man. And I can relate, dude. I'm an introvert too. And I know, and I don't know, tell me if you ever get this from people that, since you've grown up here. And so I'm sure you still have contact with people that you knew like back in high school or, some of those places. But for me, I'm very much an introverted person. And I've ran into people when they heard I did a podcast, they're like, really, Josh? Like, Josh Takimoto's doing a podcast? Like, it threw them for a loop because they couldn't imagine the guy they knew in high school or middle school was now doing a podcast weekly, talking for like 45 minutes to an hour. So do you still get that from people where they hear you're doing this massive event and they're like, Trevor Fong, the guy we knew from back then, the reserve?
Probably everybody I see says that.
Everybody.
Most people that really know me or that have known me prior to these events, they know, like, I was a shy guy. Like, I was non-existent on the scene of my 20s, whether it was business or mixers or events or just even going out, like out to eat or whatever. I never went out in my 20s. I was a homebody.
Yeah. That's so interesting. And hey, it's
good,
obviously,
though. I mean, to me, that's growth. We were talking about that today. We were at a homebuyer class, and one of my buddies who I've known for a few years, who's watched me grow even before the mixers, he made the same comment. He loves watching people change, improve, and just make drastic changes. And even seeing him today, I didn't see him for months. And to hear that, it's definitely inspiring. It's definitely a feel-good moment. Like, you can't buy that. You have to go out and actually change and do something for someone to pat you on the back these days. I mean, unless you're buying like nice, expensive stuff, like, for someone to congratulate you on a life accomplishment, work accomplishment, or just change they see in you, it definitely like feels good and it's motivating. So that's kind of like my why, if you're not including my, whether it be my kids or my employees. The next why is like the feel good of it.
Yeah, oh, and like you said, 100%, it's helping people out there. And even like you said, even if it's just one person that sees what
Yeah.
you're doing, and maybe it was someone that was very similar to you back in the day that knew you, and then now they see what you're doing, that would be something that would inspire them to say, hey, maybe I can do something like that, or maybe I can step out of
Yeah.
my comfort zone and start achieving something that I never thought was possible. I think that's great, man. I
I
think
have a
that's an
lot of
awesome thing.
I have a lot of the mixer guests, a lot of entrepreneurs in their 20s. Like I do get a lot of Instagram messages or very nice texts, and they say how do I get my name out there like you did? How do I blow my name up, around town? How did you do it? And then when I explained to them what I did, it reminds myself it was a lot of, it was years of work, but it's nice to see these younger guys, because I feel, I'm 35 in January.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel I'm as young anymore, but it's nice to see these like 20-something-year-olds just go for it, because when I was their age, I was living at home, playing PlayStation 2 or 3 at the time. It was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I did
Yeah.
all day. All I cared about was my kill death ratio, and
Right.
and that was it. And now it's like, I wake up and most of what I think about all day is how do I talk to enough people where I grow my connections, I grow my business, and then I help others. Because to me, like the one thing that I guess that has made me successful at Mixers is I've never thought about how can I get business from all these people. My first thought is how can I help all these people connect and thrive and get business, so that way after they're taken care of, I can eat too. Because to me, when a guest comes to the event and they're able to pass out whether it be business cards or get their name out there or get 5 new followers or make a new friend, I know that if that happens because of me, I'll forever be connected to them. So if I have a business owner that comes and he grows this business or meets his new best friend or their future spouse or whatever you call it, I know I'll forever be connected to them. And then it makes my job easier to work with them because we have a deeper connection, a real friendship, not just a exchange at business, So that's where like my mind's at when I do these things.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of a friend of mine helped write a book a little while ago, because I worked for an organization called Character Combine in Sacramento, and our goal was to reach out to high school coaches and athletes and help them develop, this sense of both competition and character. But this person wrote a book that we gave out one year, and it was called 1 in a Million. And the whole idea is if you have a positive impact on one person, hopefully they'll have an impact on people, and then they'll have it. And it's just like almost like a pyramid scheme, right? Where it's just like you continue to spread out. And then if you look back at the end of your life, and if there was some crazy way to track all of the people that were affected because you affected that one person, hopefully it would be upwards of like 1 million people. And for you, that's exactly what you're doing, man. Except you're doing it on a much bigger scale. You're starting off at like hundreds or thousands of people. You know what I mean? But then if they go on to do great things, then it's like, your spread goes beyond through them too, which is, I think, is a pretty cool thing.
Sometimes I remind myself though, like as cool as it would be to have, like 100,000 or 1 million followers, if I have, 1,000 really close connections that I have relationships with, that might be worth to me in my current situation more than the quantity. So for me too, I have to remind myself that as cool as it would be to do things at a larger scale, sometimes just taking someone out to a cup of coffee or grabbing a drink together or doing lunch, like that's what I've done. So I've kind of paused events for the rest of this year, and I'm trying to really use this time where like there's people that maybe we've just been playing phone tag or calendar tag. Now, like I'm really trying to do this stuff. Like this is time with you. This hour with you right now, it's probably better than me talking to like 10 people I don't know just at a high level. Like this connection is probably more meaningful. So I'm trying to shift my focus for the rest of the year back to the one-on-ones.
That's awesome. And I think it's cool, man, that you're able to recognize that, because like you could just get so lost in the sauce that it's like, okay, I hit, 500 people at this event. Okay, let's go for 750 next time. Let's go for 1,000. And you just become driven by that and you get lost in that you do lose the whole point of, I did this to connect with people. And if you're just doing it to stack up the numbers and, you get lost in that, then it kind of loses the purpose. So I think that's awesome that you recognize that and you're willing to like, hey, let me scale it back and focus more on the one-on-one or the small group things before I, continue building out. It's awesome.
I think that was a result of COVID too, because when you're used to going out all the time and then you're forced to stay home, and it was terrible when it affected a lot of the hospitality industry. A lot of my friends were, and I had a lot of friends who lost their jobs. I had a few customers who, did lose their lives to COVID. I've known probably like 4 or 5 people that passed from it. But the people that lost their jobs, I know they've changed industries, but when COVID happened, being stuck at home, it made me rethink like what my goal was with the event too, because just being well known is only so much of the mountain. The other part to get over that hump to me is the connection, the relationship level. So my mindset is always juggling back and forth between how do I scale myself so everyone knows who I am, but how also do I make sure that everyone knows who I am? They also know what I do and what I'm about. So that's like the ever evolving challenge of networking is like, how do you deepen the relationships, but still meet enough people to scale what your goals are? So
Right.
that's like where my mind's been.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think that's great.
Yeah.
So I want to go back because I feel like we jumped over this a little bit, but I want to go back a little bit. So take me to the point where you first decided, hey, I want to put on this mix and mingle event. And walk me through that a little bit. Like what caused you to, like, what made you finally take that leap? And then what was the response like for the very first event that you threw?
Yeah, so I mean, that's an easy question. So I've been going to mixers weekly since 2016.
Okay.
So January 2016 all the way to August 2019, I probably attended at least one a week, sometimes two a week, sometimes one every other week. So it evens out to probably one a week. And in that time, I got closer friends or customers who, got married. So I attended a few weddings, and it was a combination of attending a lot of these mixers, going out a lot more, to the bar scene, the club scene, and then going to weddings and seeing like, man, I've made some of my best memories and connections at weddings, like after receptions, when everyone's dancing, having fun, drinking. And like you go to the club and like it's a little bit of a party. So I don't know if I can do too much business there. But then like you go to these mixers and they're so professional that they lose some of the fun. So I just saw like 3 different environments that I wanted to combine into one. The professional side of the mixer, the kind of the crazy fun night look of the club, along with like that wedding after reception where there's love and friendships and a lot of like, amazing feelings going out. So basically like July 2019, I texted the club owner, who's one of my really good friends, Colin. I said, hey, if I do a mixer with 100 people, would you host it for me? He said, sure. He didn't even think we'd bring out 100 people. And I think I didn't even really think that over those last, what was it, 3 years, 3.5, 4 years, how many people I met. The first one we had 250, 300, and it was packed. And it was so good that I was able to carry that momentum into September, October, November, December. And then January I had a really big birthday party that we kind of deemed like a night networking mixer birthday celebration. And then February hit, COVID was coming on the scene, it started to die down. And then, August came and I had to shut down completely, just like everyone else.
Sure.
But that is how like that came together. It was a combination of 3.5 years of me hitting the pavement and then just inviting the right people.
That's awesome.
Because
so
every mixer you go to, you'll see the same person. If you attend any networking events in SAG, if you don't recognize the same people, like you really have to be going out of your way to not like look for these people. Like every time I go to a mixer, I can find, the same 5 people, like my foundational people.
Yeah, that's it. So this might be a dumb question because obviously, like I said, I've never been to a mixer. So I don't really, I kind of just have a very general idea of what they're about. But if you have people that are going like every week to a mixer, and like you said, you start knowing people, I mean, at a certain point, are they going to the mixer every week to just continue to develop those relationships? Because obviously at a certain point, it feels like you're not going to make too many more new connections, right? Or is it?
Yeah, it's a combination.
Does that make sense? That seems like a weird question, but
if you attend every mixer that they host, naturally you're going to get business from it, from like the law of large numbers.
Sure.
If you go to like 1,000 events a year, you have to get business out of it just by showing up and passing out business cards. For a lot of people, like myself included, my main marketing source and referral source is going to these mixers. So for some people, depending on what their industry is, like I think if you offer a specialty product where like, if you're a professional, like financial or something like that, it's hard because there's a lot of those guys there.
Sure.
But a good strategy is to always be there. Consistency is key, right? They teach you that in like anything you do. So for some, consistency in going to mixers generates them business, and that's their comfort zone. I've noticed some people that come and go every other time. That's a great strategy. And then in between that, they're doing one-on-ones and building relationships. But it's personality driven too. Because I will say that the answer I give, I know a lot of my guests very well. they're better off attending more mixers than I am because they offer a very unique product. I've met some amazing people that offer such unique products that they benefit from going every time. But I've met some people like in the real estate industry where there's a million real estate agents there. They should probably just pick a few professionals from a few mixers and then go spend time outside of it networking. So it's really profession driven.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I imagine, say, for example, say someone was they had a branding company, or they were like a social media manager. They might
like a swag company. Well, like if you're a swag company, you make swag items like you can wrap water bottles. Like you need to be at every one of those.
Right.
Because you can work with everybody.
Yeah, because I imagine that, okay, you show up one weekend and you meet some people and they're not really interested. And then that following weekend, maybe they're at a different point in their business where, hey, you know what? I could use a swag guy to help me out. So that makes sense. I love the consistency thing too, because I believe in that.
It's like if you keep going to this podcast, you do a workout, you're probably going to get results, but you have to keep going.
You got to keep going. Yeah. Well, that's what we've done with this podcast. Like we've missed 1 week, and that drove me crazy because I'm like, I just hate missing. But like for this entire year, we've only missed 1 week because we just believe that in order to put a good product out, you have to be consistent with it. Otherwise, people can't trust what you're saying. People can't trust what you're doing because they don't know if you're going to show up 1 week or not show up 1 week. So I think that's interesting. Now let me ask you, feel free, if you can't answer this question, just don't answer. It's like, I'm not going to answer that. But I imagine that there's etiquette at these mixers, and there's maybe some unwritten things that you do and don't do. Have there been some people where not necessarily you, but there's like, I'm sure word gets around where it's like, oh, not this person, here they are again, but just because they're tough to be around?
I don't want to jinx this because I'll answer very honestly.
Yeah, please.
Everyone that's come to my mixers, I would want all of them back. Everybody that's come,
that's awesome.
That's registered or I've met, I absolutely would come back.
Good.
At my last mixer, we had an incident where they thought it was more of like a club just because we didn't, the way we put the signs outside.
Yeah.
So we had guests come in and they were confused on what it was.
Got it.
And they definitely, they came in probably drinking somewhere else if I had to guess.
Sure.
They or that person, that group, I probably would not want back because they just didn't know what it was. But then I look at myself and say, like, maybe that's on me for not putting a better host downstairs to explain what we were doing. But I'm actually, knock on wood, I've done, including like birthdays I've had that have been open to people. Like I've probably done, about 12 events now.
Yeah.
And all 12 or even more, I probably did more than that. All of them never had an issue. I would love all the guests to come back. And I think it's probably because I do make myself a little more active in it. Like I go out, I go around. And, the guests are so good to me where they talk about me, they share pictures of me, they tag me and post. Probably because of that, I think people realize that they don't want to ruin their reputation. I mean, it's a business professional event. It's not just a party. It's not, just a club. It's not supposed to be that. It really is a professional event. And I think people respect that going in. So luckily, knock on wood, we've really avoided that.
Yeah, and I can imagine because obviously Sacramento is a cool community because it's not a big city, but I feel like there's a really tight knit group of people. Like I said, I've seen you in other people's pictures of people that we follow, and I had no clue you were connected to them. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, there's that guy Trevor, and so I imagine that you have to be really aware of that when you're going to these events, because if you decide to act crazy and you lose your mind at one of these things, that word's going to spread really quickly. And it's going to affect your business and it's going to affect your reputation. So I imagine, it's like I said, especially in a smaller city like this, it's not going to take long for you to get that bad reputation.
Maybe because I say it's a business professional social mixer, and maybe those words being business professional remind people that they have something to lose, that they're representing themselves or their business.
Right.
And a lot of the people that come too, even if we have someone that comes that's not a business owner or in their career they want to be in, I've had people come to these things that plan on getting licensed in their respective industries, and they're looking for people to partner up with or work with or companies. So everyone there almost has something to lose by not representing themselves their best. And even when we do the after celebrations, I kind of remove all the logos and stuff, and we kind of let them be, and then we remove the name tags and stuff then.
Sure.
But for the most part, like everyone there has a name tag on, everyone there's passing out cards. Like most of these people are, even and I guess, thinking about it now, like some of it could look like maybe they're just coming to hang out and party, but I know almost every guest in there, and they usually do a pretty good job representing themselves or their companies. So that's why I keep them as business mixers and not just these, parties or nightlife things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you guys have it at the same location every time?
So for 19, we did it exclusively at Mix, and then this year came and I had people that wanted me to do little pop-up events at their places. So I've done those.
Oh, cool.
In September on 916 day, we did Tesla's grand opening of their new location on Arden Way, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So I got to do that. Really great turnout. No alcohol there. It was, because we let people test drive the cars. That was really fun. We had Tahoe planned, and then one of the key planners got COVID, and then the weather was so bad, after that storm, we decided to maybe hold off to that till next year. Mont Bleu was bought by Bally's earlier this year, and they're going through a name change as we speak. So they definitely want to drive in, new customers, new clientele to their hotel. So they reached out to do a mixer there. So you'll probably see that happen at some point next year. So we'll do awesome. Fun stuff. We want to keep the interest high. I've been thinking about adding guest speakers. It's something I've talked about for a long time. I've thought about adding vendors. I just want to make sure that we do it in a very, very respectful, clean way that doesn't stop the networking from happening, but it maybe kind of adds value to it. So there's certainly things we want to do that I've been slow to pull the trigger on. Like I've been asked to do guest speaking and vendors for a while, and I've been slow to pull the triggers on it.
Interesting. And guest speaking meaning professionals,
like having a panel. Yeah, like maybe
cool.
And
yeah.
So like imagine, like one mixer, it's like fitness themed, and we talk about some people that maybe own like boxing gyms or personal trainers, and they come share their experience as an entrepreneur, the struggles they faced during COVID. And then now like we have them, maybe some of their following comes in, so we inject some new lifeline from a fitness crowd along with the crowd that's loyal to the event. And then each time we do a new industry, maybe. That's kind of like what I was thinking.
That's awesome. I think that's a great idea. Well, I'll say this too. I really do, and I'm not just saying this because you're sitting in front of me, but I do respect the fact that on some of these things you're not just quick to pull the trigger, because I obviously a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people that are super ultra driven, and it's just go, and it's like act first, think later, and then hopefully it all works out. And I think sometimes it's maybe not in the person's best interest to do that or to rush into things. So the fact that you're very methodical and thoughtful, and you're not thinking, hey, how is this going to affect me? Kind of going back to what you said earlier, it's like, okay, how is this going to affect people at the mixer who are benefiting from this event? Is adding a speaker going to throw off the dynamics? Do I want to do that? So a lot of respect to you, man, for thinking that way, because I think some people would just be like, hey, how do I make this thing blow up even bigger? Let me add, let me try to go out and get Tony Robbins or something and blow
and that's what to connect back what you said earlier. It's reminding myself why I did these, and the reason I did these was just to meet some amazing people that have a like-minded thought process. And I have to remind myself that what I'm doing, and sometimes you pull it in the wrong direction if you make changes too quickly. But I think it could be a personality thing too. I'm always late to the party. Like I definitely, like I'm almost 35, and I got my first tattoo this year, and all my friends are like, all the guests, like they're at 22 and have them, or 18 and got them. Like I'm just always late like that. Like even like the new movies or the songs that come out, like I'm always like late to it now. And I don't know if that like makes me like more like a lot of people, like I have a good reputation right now, I think, right? I have I have a good following. Sure. And I realize like I'm always like the late adopter. Like I'm still on like an iPhone 11 right now. I don't have a 12 or a 13. Even the new AirPods that came out, I still like the original one, so I got those. Okay. So maybe I'm getting a little behind the times. I think maybe my age is showing a little bit now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you a little bit, man. It's always when you go back to the song thing, because I'm 33, and it's always embarrassing when you go up to someone. Like I have two younger siblings, and they're in their 20s. And all right, so I have three younger siblings, but two brothers that I'm thinking about specifically right now. And I'll say, hey man, did you hear this song? And they're like, seriously? This song's been out for like 2 years. I'm like, all right. I'm older than you guys. Yeah, it's like, all right, calm down. And then I'm like, I'm not gonna bring that up again. That was the wrong crowd. So I'm with you, man. I hate when that stuff happens, but
happens to me too often, I'm noticing.
Yeah.
So I gotta have someone keep me up on the cool stuff. Like I still don't really TikTok. I like Instagram because I get business from it. It works for my events. I'm still slow to adopt on a lot of stuff, and I definitely want to work on that for next year as part of my goals. But I definitely want to. I like to make changes as I feel they're needed, not just for the sake of it.
Sure. Hey, man, I know that you're, like you said, more reserved, but a podcast may be in your future, man, because I feel like this has been a great conversation. I feel like you could host your own podcast.
I'm too ADD. I think I'm too unorganized to go through the list of questions like you are. Like I would definitely be all over the place. And even like when I'm answering your questions, I have to remind myself, don't jump too far because I got to let you like go with the flow here.
Oh, that's okay. I have a list of questions. I always tell people it's a very, very loose guideline. I've already missed so many. Like it's just for me to get back on track if I need it. But usually the sign of a good conversation, as you know, is like it just happens organically, and I don't have to look at my notes. The more I look at my notes, it's probably a big issue. It means the conversation.
And I've gotten better about telling my story because I get asked a lot about things. And I'm like, there's no secret to it. It was just a sequential light timeline of events, and it wasn't anything crazy fancy. It was just most of the changes I made in my life are like when I made the jump to do the mixer, I just felt I was like behind. And I've always felt like I'm behind because I'm just a slow adopter. But like, I had attended so many mixers and eventually like people are hitting me up like saying, hey, when's the next event? And I was like, man, I should have my own because I'm spending all this energy. And sometimes it's a result of that. Like, I'll feel like it's time for change. But, I think it's just more a matter of when I get fed up with something. But it doesn't happen till late. I have a high tolerance for staying the same.
Yeah, but that's not a bad thing. I mean, not everybody can be at the front of the line, right? So some people, stay behind, and then you take in the entire landscape of what people have done, where they've failed, where they've succeeded, and then you can build off of that. So I think.
Did you watch Squid Game? Is that why you're saying that? You're talking about the glass stone scene thing?
That's funny. I did watch Squid Game, and that's not what I was thinking, but it kind of makes sense, though, doesn't it? Yeah, that was a wild show. My sister put me on that one. I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch this.
7 times.
7 times?
All the way through.
Dang. Yeah, it's a great show. The first time I watched it though, I put on I didn't realize that it was, I don't know why. I didn't realize it was a Korean show. And so and so there was subtitles and like the mouth wasn't matching up. I'm like, this is awful. And then I flipped it, had them speaking Korean with the English subtitles, made the show 110% better. I was hooked. It's a wild show. Scary stuff. But no, I don't I would not do well in the Squid Game. I know that for a fact. But no, that's funny. No, I didn't mention it for that reason, but that kind of makes sense though. Yeah, there is that connection there. What was I was going to ask you? So this is it. I think this is kind of an interesting thing. So I'm sure you've heard this before, but I think there's been kind of this common thought process when it comes to people making friends. And you always hear that it's a lot harder to make friends as you get older. And some people say like once you exit college, that's kind of like your set group of friends. And then, beyond that, you might meet parents of your kids and stuff like that. But it's a lot tougher. But obviously what you're doing is you have a bunch of people in their mid, late 20s, early 30s, late 30s. I mean, I don't know what the age range is, but you have grown people making these connections. And I imagine that they're not always business connections. I imagine that they start off as business connections. And then you probably have stories of people becoming best friends after these mixers.
Yeah, same with me. Some of my, like one of my best friends now, I met him at my mixer. He hosted his own during COVID. And then, earlier this summer, we started hanging out, talking every day. And now we are probably like at that level. And that's the beauty of these mixers is like, you definitely got to come like professionally and show your best face to that side. And naturally through that law of large numbers, you're going to make a few friends out of it. Like if you met 100 people and 10 or 20 do business with you, 1 or 2 are probably going to become your friends just because maybe you're not going to do business and you have more in common. You both like the same sports teams. You both are free on the same days. So that's what's the beauty of these mixers is that it gives you a second chance, not just in your professional life, but your social life to make new friends and build new connections. And maybe sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's neither. It's not the right fit. It's just not the right time. But I see a lot of that happen. And that also motivates me. That goes back to seeing, businesses thrive or friendships thrive because of something either I hosted and did. And that's the worthwhile out of this.
Yeah, which I think is such a cool thing. So it almost sounds like, based on what you're saying, is as you get older, yeah, it's maybe not. Maybe it's more difficult, but maybe it's even more inconvenient. It's more challenging just because you have more stuff going on and you have to make
in
an
college,
actual effort.
have class together,
right?
You guys have the same lunches, or you work together in these these amazing retail shops, or like you work at the college bookstore together. You're positioned to be forced to the only escape from that work or school is to talk about personal stuff. So you make friends, and I think that's why so many people make friends in school. But growing up, where do you make friends? It's kind of weird to just add random people on Facebook, but it's not weird to add them after you've met them in a mixer and you kind of know a little bit about them. And the mixers, it forces these people into like this room with four walls where all you can do is talk to get to know each other. You have two options: you can share about your business, or you can get to know them. It's like two things you can do at a mixer. Aside from maybe have a drink or an appetizer, like
sure,
if you go to that event, you only can talk about two things, and it's a little bit about you and a little bit about your business. So friendships are going to continue to happen there, and that's probably one of the most rewarding things that I'll never even know the influence I had until someone tells me. But that's the fun part of it. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have, and you've kind of alluded to this a little bit, but since you've had some success doing this and this has become such a popular event, have people from other cities reached out and asked for guidance and advice on how to kind of do the same thing in their own city?
Yeah, pre-COVID, I had people in the Bay Area hitting me up, people from LA, and I was definitely open to helping them, giving them like the templates I use and the marketing strategy, because to me, this is just something I do for fun. And this is not really I don't directly make money from the event itself. I make money from the the referrals or the friendships or the relationships that come out of it.
Sure.
And I had a lot of people from other cities, and now that things are starting to reopen, I am getting more and more inquiries about how can I help them again. But again, like, in the Bay, they're still so strict on that a lot of people just don't feel comfortable. Like when COVID hit, it just made these things so much harder to do. Although the first mixer we had in July was an amazing turnout, like the one we did in July on that Thursday, the 29th, the 30th was when the mask mandate was in effect. So my mixer was the last day you could openly not wear a mask in public. And then that Friday at midnight, it switched back to the state, I think the state mandated orders.
Yeah. So I guess talking about COVID a little bit, because obviously it plays a massive role in what you do. I'm sure you were getting hit up all the time during COVID from people who's like, I miss this event so much, because I imagine it's not just a business thing for people, but it is a life-giving thing. Like you know what I'm saying? So like, I guess a couple questions. What was that like for you? Like how often were you being hit up about the event? And then what was that like for you? Because I imagine, in a sense, based on what you've shared so far, like your heart for people, I imagine that was a really difficult thing for you to hear all the time, because like you want to be able to put this thing on, but because of the situation, you couldn't do it. So like, what were some of the emotions that you went through during that whole time?
Right now, and even going back a little bit into COVID, I average 300 conversations a day. Not 300 total messages, emails. I'm talking 300 people on any given day will talk to me, and I respond to every one of them myself. I usually try to respond to everybody. So most of my day, I would say 10 hours of my day is just talking to people. And during COVID, people wanted a way to network, and we had nothing in person. So we tried Zoom stuff. Just, it wasn't the same. I joined a few as like a guest, and I just never hosted because it just wasn't the same. But I think during COVID, a lot of people were anxious to find ways to do business. So most people had to adopt the digital marketplace, the social media, Instagram, who weren't keen on it before. And, now a lot of people though have come back, and not everyone's come back. So like, it's so weird, is like during COVID, everyone was itching to get out. And then like, now that we're back, guest counts are lower, right? There's the same people coming out, but not all of them are coming out. Some only want to come out if we have outdoor space. I have guests email me saying, hey, is this going to be outdoors where I can come? And if there's not much outdoor space, they're like, oh, I'll just see you at the next one. So it's so weird now, because now I have to cater to a lot more preferences, right?
Sure.
Some people are vaccinated, some aren't. I'm not like technically like licensed to check it, or I don't even know what I'm looking for half the time.
Yeah.
So like, we have to work with the venues on their rules or whatever the city, state ordinance, mandatory laws are. So everything's all over the place. It's tough. That's why it's so much harder to do events. That's why, since we've reopened, I think I've done an event in a month, but it's not in the same size and capacity as it was pre-COVID. So I've had to adopt, but I will say this. I love smaller events because for me, I can actually have conversations. Some of my smaller mixers for me are better just in terms of conversation and that I don't get interrupted. The bigger ones look better and are better for momentum and marketing and word of mouth, but I get like no conversations in.
Right.
So it's just like, and then that's that thing we talked about earlier is like, how do we not get lost in the sauce where the goal is to make connections? So sometimes the less shinier mixer is actually the better one for me.
That's interesting. I remember, and I wish I could remember the name of the book. It was a Malcolm Gladwell book, and he actually talked about that. I think it was David and Goliath. I think that was the name of the book. But Gladwell was talking about how there's this perfect number, because you hear like in schools, right? Like my wife is a school teacher. You always hear about class size, right? Like the class size being too big or it's overwhelming for a teacher. And in the book, he was talking about how there's like this perfect size where if the class is too small or the event is too small, it's too intimate and people like feel like they stand out and it's uncomfortable. But if it's too big, it's intimidating and they don't feel like they can connect. And so to your point, like there's this perfect sweet spot where if you can find that number, like you said, it may not be, like you said, not the best for marketing, but for actual real connection, I mean, it doesn't get any better.
I think probably for me, 150 to 200 overall throughout the event would be ideal if I was trying to be effective, but still look amazing, right? Because that's a large mixer. But when we were doing, 300-400, it was like insane. But I remember like half the things I talked about those events. It was just too many hello, goodbye.
Yeah.
Like I can't remember what the guests do. Like it's frustrating, because the goal is for me also was to identify what each guest does, so I know what capacity I could work with them on. And but it was great for marketing because everyone wanted to be there and talk about it. So again, it's just like the ongoing battle of the personal side that you got to decide what you want to be.
Yeah, well, that is really interesting, and we'll wrap up here in a second. But it was an interesting point that
send me that book.
Yeah, I'll find out which one. I want to say it was David and Goliath. Tipping Point's always the first one that you go to with Malcolm Gladwell, but I don't think it was that one.
Now that events have slowed down too, I have more time to like sit here and read. Like after this call, like I don't have anything planned. I was going to call a few people back that reached out to me while I was in class and doing this. Yeah. And then I have time to sit and read. So I need to get back in that too, because a lot of the things I've learned from conversation like this, everybody has a book they love.
Yeah.
And I still haven't like found the one I love. There's ones I like for me personally that are more, with things going on in my personal life. Sure. Like business book, I still haven't found one that like I love that's helped me. So maybe I'll put yours next up on the Amazon. I just got Amazon Prime this year. That's how late I am to the party.
Oh man.
Does that show you? I just got
You're
Amazon
right.
Prime this year. I've never had Prime. I used to order stuff from Amazon.
Yeah.
Take 5-7 days.
Oh, now you're on the Prime.
Comes the next day, and I'm like blown away. I didn't have Prime till 2021. I signed up for it like in January this year.
Hey man, I'll say this, good for you. You were still super productive and you got a lot of stuff done and you're successful. So, hey, good for you, man.
Yeah.
You did all that without Prime. That's impressive.
Yeah. But now like I'm addicted. I looked at how much I spent on Amazon. It's like increased 20 times.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, they'll definitely get you for sure.
I buy stuff I don't even need. I just buy stuff because it comes so fast.
But you see the little blue Prime logo. It's like, well, it's on Prime. Got to go for
and
it.
It's like and that's why I think branding is so important is you recognize like that it's coming from Amazon or it's Amazon Prime backed or whatever, and it's fast. Like you just don't think about it, and that's why like I branded Mix and Mingle and my other stuff. I want to tell you that too is like the reason why you see me put my little logo on it, the Mix and Mingle, is I like branding. I like that consistency. Mm-hmm. I like people to know that when they come to my event, they know what they're going to get. They know they're going to get a great time networking, meeting some awesome people, and that's what it's all about. It's not about giving away free stuff. I don't do raffles. I'm not good at that stuff. I don't know how to get raffle stuff. I don't want to raffle it off. I'm going to forget. I'm bad on the microphone. I just that's not me. The point of the event is come meet other like-minded people, grow your business, and do it in a safe, fun environment. It's not a raffle. Yeah. It's not a giveaway. It's not a get rich place. It's come share your business, meet someone else. That's it.
I love that. So I have to ask, and I don't know if you know off the top of your head, just give me a rough number. How many contacts do you have in your phone? Gotta be like
contacts,
so many.
like 7 or 8,000 maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, I try to save everyone's info, and
Yeah,
now like when I meet someone, I put a little note about them in the about me. So like I'll have
that's
like
smart.
like I would have you in there and put Connectable podcast and maybe like
Yeah.
the book you put. I put notes in there now. I'm trying to be better about that. It's a lot of
Yeah.
work, but it's nice. Like if we don't hear from each other for a few months, then we talk again.
Sure.
And you call me, I'll actually be looking at your page and then looking at your notes, and then I'll bring up something. And
That's
it triggers
smart.
it triggers in my head too after I read it. Like, oh, I do remember that book. Like I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
go get it. So I'm trying to be better
Interesting.
about that. But man, that's a full-time job. That's a battle I'm never going to win.
No. Yeah, it could be like Josh Takimoto, Connectable podcast. Like, remember, never do that podcast again, something like that.
No, I'm going to be 100% honest with you.
Yeah,
I
please.
have never met anyone on my mixer that I like want to avoid or dislike, because there's
that's
so
good.
many people there that maybe there's guests I meet, and maybe we just don't have a friendship because we're two different people. We could be different points in our lives, different styles, different interests, right? Like maybe I
Sure.
love sushi, they hate sushi. There's just times where it just doesn't click, right? It's like dating. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not a bad
But
thing. It just doesn't work.
yeah, everyone I've met though, like I feel so much support from them, even if they shout me out or tag me, and like I see somebody post, like when people do take pictures of me, like I feel special. Like I feel like I'm valued in this world. And for me, and I'll tell you this very briefly, in my earlier 20s, even in high school, I was a very bad student. I had a 1.7 GPA at one point. Just wasn't a school guy. Wasn't, and never like when you're not doing well, and that's the only thing you're supposed to be doing. Like as a student growing up, your only job is school, right? When you're in middle school, high school, your only job is technically be a good student, maybe an athlete, but primarily a good student. And because I wasn't good at taking tests and the SATs, I always felt like I didn't have purpose in this world. And when I attended the mixers, when I became a father, I knew I had responsibility. But responsibility is not the same as purpose, right? Like my responsibility to my kids isn't always going to self-fulfill me, right? Some people love being a dad, and that's all they care about, right? There's people that try to have kids and they can't. So like being a dad to them is their purpose in this world. For me, I love my kids. I love my friends. I love the people I've met. I genuinely care about them. I wish them well. I never wish ill will on anybody. But for me, it wasn't until I started doing the mixers and started seeing people connect until like I found a real purpose. And once I started doing the mixers and I would hear people tell me stories just on the side, most of the stuff I get, I don't even share it. Like a lot of people like tell me amazing things that I won't even share here just because it's so personal and private. Or they'll tell me like, hey, I appreciate you so much for doing this. I just want you to know it means a lot. When I get like that message, to me, at least specifically in the work and self-fulfillment place, non-family friends, that gives me purpose. And I feel like that's really completed me. So it's like being a good parent, a good father, being a good friend, right? And then in my work, being a good, agent, but also being a good, like connecting people. That to me is like the purpose. And that really has fulfilled probably the biggest void in my life, is maybe why I do things later, is like, what am I doing it for? Because I know that when we work really hard for material things, they get old. Everything that I've ever wanted is old, and I don't even have it anymore. Like all the things I wanted as a kid, with the exception of maybe some toys, and I just got back into sports cards, which is probably another podcast. Everything I'm buying like right now for sports cards, I don't like all the new stuff. I like all the stuff I didn't get as a kid.
Sure.
And even like the toys like I wanted as a kid, I remember every Christmas, every toy I wanted, you could ask me, I knew what I wanted. Yeah. Whether it was like the new Megazord, Dragonzord, Pokemon cards, we used to play with Pogs. I remember every one I wanted, but like now I don't have any of them. The only thing I have with me is memories and probably either the friendships or family that I carried over, like to today. So, just to get back to like everything I'm doing now, like it gives me a little more purpose. Even though the events I don't make money off of, it gives me a purpose. And that purpose ties back to passion. It helps me wake up in the morning. When I do mixers, I feel important. Like, I feel good about going to the event space early. It just makes me feel like I'm valued, like I'm needed in this world. And I think that's a lot what during COVID I was yearning for, is what's my purpose in this world? Not just to be a dad and friend, but what am I giving? What am I providing for others outside of my friends and family? And the mixer was probably always the foundational piece. So that's kind of like how my mind has worked over the last year or two.
Love it. We could just drop the mic right there. I'm telling you, man, just consider a podcast. I'm just saying. So that was excellent, man. That was great. So last question before we let you get out of here, because we want to be respectful of your time. This is the question that we ask everybody at the end of the podcast, which is called our connection suggestion. It could be a person, place, brand, organization, restaurant, something that you feel like our audience should be connected to and should check out on social media and all those things.
I'll probably give you a few more offline because there's some amazing people,
please.
men, women out there that are just doing what I'm doing behind the scenes at a bigger scale. I know so many successful business owners, but speaking of events, I was texting someone on the way here, Ben Rozenberg. He runs midnight events. We had a talk a few weeks ago, like a serious private talk, and just the way he does business, the way he operates. You ever just meet someone and like they know what they're doing, and it's like you don't always agree with the way they do things, but you just know they're good at it. And I'm not talking about like him in particular, just like like a Steve Jobs, like
sure,
they're probably not the easiest people to get along with, but they're so damn good. Like they get it done. They get the iPhone done. Like he's someone that if you're talking strictly in event space, because that's what I know him for, like he does events that are thousands of people, and he's grown them and brought in all these amazing artists for Sacramento to enjoy and come see live in person. So Ben Rozenberg from Midnight Events, I was texting him earlier. I was joking with him, I'd give him a special shout out. And what better way than to answer your question with someone who I think would be an amazing guest. And I've actually never heard him talk like outside. I don't even know if he's ever like done a podcast. I haven't seen any. He doesn't post a lot on his page other than like I think his like family and a little bit snippet of his events.
Okay.
So if you got him on, I'm sure there'd be a lot of people out there that can learn from him. I'd want to hear what he has to say on some of these questions. Because for me to get to that next level, I think he's doing what I probably need to be doing.
Awesome.
Well, I'll get you a cell phone. I'll message it to you.
Perfect. He'll be hearing from us soon for sure. Yeah. So that's awesome, man. So where can they follow you on social media? Where can they follow Mix and Mingle? All of those
I think the easiest way is just my personal, because everything's tied to it. So at Trevor Fong, so at my name, and then on Instagram, and then literally like my LinkedIn, my Twitter, my Facebook is in the Linktree link, and then all my other pages are in my bio. So it's just like the easiest one-stop shop, I guess.
Perfect. Awesome, man. Well, this has been a lot of fun, man. I appreciate your time. Love everything that you're doing, and even more so love the heart behind what you're doing, because I think it's really important. And I know that people are really benefiting from this, man. Hopefully once, things continue to get back to normal, and that this, you guys will be able to do your thing in a more normal sense somewhat soon. But everybody go check out Trevor and follow what he's doing. It's incredible, man. So once again, man, I appreciate the time, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, you guys, take care. Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable podcast.